One phone call exposed my brother's 15-year secret. I was in the cereal aisle when my life fell apart, which honestly is not how I pictured my dramatic emotional awakening going. I always thought it would involve rain, maybe a park bench, something cinematic. Not a discount sign that said family size over a wall of cartoon mascots. My phone buzzed. It was Mom. I almost didn't pick up. We'd been doing this thing lately where every conversation somehow turned into a comparison Olympics between me and my older brother Evan. Evan just got another bonus. Evan's boss flew him out first class. Evan sends me flowers every week, just because. Meanwhile, I once made Mom a birthday card out of a sticky note and a pen I borrowed from the bank. So, different styles. I answered anyway, balancing the phone between my cheek and shoulder while comparing sugar content on cereal boxes. Hey, Mom. She didn't say hello. Your brother's in the hospital, she said instead. They think it was his heart. The cereal box slid right out of my hand and hit the floor. Here's the thing you need to know about Evan. He was never supposed to be the one in the hospital. Evan was the golden child. Not in a subtle way either. He was the human equivalent of those before photos and toothpaste commercials, already shining, but somehow still improved afterward. Growing up, he was the kid with the straight A's, the trophies, the most likely to succeed caption in the yearbook. I was the kid who once put a fork in the microwave because I wanted to see what would happen. Spoiler, sparks. Sparks would happen. I loved him. I also sort of hated him. In the way you hate someone you also want to be. So hearing that he was the one lying in a hospital bed felt like the universe had mixed up its paperwork. Is he okay? I asked. My voice came out too loud, and a lady comparing granola brands gave me a look. They're still running tests, Mom said. I could hear hospital sounds in the background, distant beeping, a murmur of voices. You should come if you can. I'm on my way, I said, already abandoning my cart in the middle of the aisle. Somewhere, a store employee felt a sudden disturbance in the force. The drive to the hospital felt longer than it was. My brain decided to replay every conversation Evan and I had ever had, like an aggressively curated best-of playlist. Evan teaching me to ride a bike and letting me crash into him instead of the fence. Evan explaining algebra with Skittles because I'd already given up. Evan at Dad's funeral 3 years ago, holding it together while I forgot how to breathe. And also, Evan getting into his dream college. Evan landing the big job. Evan buying Mom a house when I was still renting an apartment with a couch that squeaked every time you sat on it. By the time I sprinted through the hospital doors, my lungs hurt and my head was buzzing. I found Mom in the waiting room, gripping a foam coffee cup like it had offended her. She looked smaller. Mom was never small. She was a force. The kind of woman who could walk into a PTA meeting and quietly reorganize it into something efficient without anyone realizing what had happened. Now, though, she just looked tired. I hugged her. What happened? She leaned into me for a second, then straightened. He was at work, giving some presentation. His chest started hurting. He collapsed during the Q&A. Trust him to pass out after the main part, I said before I could stop myself. A tiny smile twitched at her mouth. He always did care about finishing his work. They're stabilizing his heart rhythm, she said quickly. They think it was genetic, something they missed. Genetic. I looked down at my own chest like I could see the wiring. So, I said slowly, am I also a ticking time bomb, or... Her face shuddered in a way I didn't understand. We'll talk about that later. Which is always exactly what you want to hear right after someone says genetic, by the way. A nurse finally came out and told us Evan was in a room and we could see him one at a time. You go, Mom said immediately. He'd want to see you first. I blinked. Me? Why? Because you're his brother, she said. Like that explained anything. And because He asked for you. For the second time that day, something slipped out of my hands. This time, it was my sense of reality. Evan asked for me? I walked down the hallway feeling like I had borrowed someone else's life by mistake. The room was halfway down, door slightly open, the sound of beeping and low TV volume spilling out. I knocked on the frame. Hey, is this the extremely handsome heart patient I ordered? Evan turned his head toward me. He looked awful. And by awful, I mean he looked like a normal human being for once. His dark hair was sticking up, his hospital gown was not doing him any favors, and his usually perfect posture had collapsed into a sort of lopsided slouch. Danny, he said, his voice hoarse but amused. I knew they wouldn't let just anyone in here. I pulled up the chair by the bed and sat down, suddenly all out of jokes. You scared Mom. I scared myself, he admitted. I was in the middle of explaining quarterly projections. Thought it was indigestion. Next thing I know, I'm on the floor, and Linda from marketing is crying over me. Very dramatic. I don't recommend it. I tried to laugh. It came out more like a cough. So, are you okay? For now, he said. They're still running tests. There's some fancy name for it. Long Q something. Sounds like a bad Wi-Fi password? Is it serious? He looked at the ceiling for a moment. Serious enough that I had to sign some forms with lots of small print. Silence settled between us. The kind that usually makes me babble about the weather, but I didn't have the energy. Mom said it might be genetic, I said finally. Does that mean I should be tested too? He closed his eyes briefly like he was bracing himself. Yeah, that's kind of why I asked for you first. Because you want to warn me I might also drop dramatically during a slideshow? Because there's something I should have told you a long time ago, he said quietly. And I didn't. And now I'm in a hospital gown and it's a terrible time, but also maybe the only time I'll stop dodging it. A small knot formed in my stomach. You're freaking me out, man. He actually laughed. I deserve that. Okay, just let me say it all before you interrupt, okay? I never interrupt, I started, then stopped at his look. Fine, I sometimes interrupt. Go. He took a breath. You know how Mom always said I was the one who took care of everything after Dad left? I snorted. She says that at least twice a holiday. Right. He stared at his hands. Well, that's not exactly true. Here's the part where the story stops being about hospitals and starts being about secrets. 15 years ago, when I was 12 and Evan was 17, Dad didn't leave the way we were told. He didn't just walk out, I blurted. So much for not interrupting. No, Evan said. He had a heart attack. On the job. Sudden. The same condition they think I have. The room tilted. But we had a funeral 3 years ago. For his body, Evan said gently. Not for our expectations. I stared at him. Mom told us he ran off with someone. That he chose a new life. That he didn't want us. She told you that, Evan said. She told me the truth. 15 years. 15 years of me picturing Dad in some sun-drenched apartment with a younger family, choosing not to call. 15 years of me wondering why I wasn't worth staying for. My throat felt thick. Why would she tell me that and not you? Evan's eyes softened. Because I was old enough to sign papers, to help with insurance, to know what a congenital heart condition meant. She thought you were too young to carry that. So instead she let me carry a story where Dad just didn't like us enough to stay, I said, my voice rising. That seems like a choice. I didn't say it was a good plan, he said. Just her plan. I stood up and started pacing the tiny patch of floor by his bed. You've both been lying to me for 15 years. He winced. Technically, she lied. I omitted. What's the difference? I hated the story she gave you, he said quietly. I wanted to tell you the truth 1,000 times, but every time I brought it up, she panicked. Said she didn't want you living afraid of your heart every time it beat too fast. She said she could carry that worry for both of us if I kept quiet. And you agreed. I was 17, he said. I just watched Dad die in front of me on the factory floor. Mom could barely stand. I was terrified. And yeah, I agreed. I thought I was protecting you. Anger flared hot in my chest. Not just at them, at myself. For all the times I'd screamed internally that I wasn't enough, that even my own father didn't want me, it had never been true. I spent years trying not to be mad at a man in my imagination, I said. I blame myself for something that never even happened. I know, Evan said. I saw it. I saw you pull away from Dad's memory, from Mom, from me. And every time I tried to fix it, she said, not yet. He's not ready. I stared at him. What about you? Were you ready to carry all of that alone? He shrugged one shoulder. I didn't really think about it. I just did what needed doing. That was Evan in one sentence. Why tell me now? I asked. Because doctors poked your heart and you got nostalgic for honesty? Because if this thing is genetic and you have it too, he said, voice tight, I'm not letting you find out from a stranger in a lab coat. And I'm definitely not letting you waste another year blaming yourself for Dad disappearing when he never once stopped loving you. His heart literally gave out right after he was talking about you. I froze. He was talking about me? Evan nodded. He was telling his coworker you'd drawn some ridiculous comic strip of him as a superhero. He was laughing, then he wasn't. For some reason, that's what broke me. Not the word heart, not the idea of genetic time bombs, but the idea of my dad laughing about something I drew. I sat back down hard, my eyes burned. Why didn't you tell me that part? I demanded, voice wavering. That he was proud of me? You let me grow up thinking he barely noticed me. I'm telling you now, he said softly. I know it's late, but it's not never. I swiped at my face. I can't believe I'm crying in front of you while you're in a hospital gown. This feels selfish. Please, he said. I've been trying to get you to talk about your feelings since you were 10 and your goldfish died and you gave a speech at the toilet instead of crying. Bubbles was a good fish, I muttered. He was very professional. Despite everything, I laughed through the tears. So, what happens now? I get tested? We all sit in a circle and apologize for lying? That would be nice, Evan said, though I might need pants first. Later that day, after a doctor with kind eyes explained the testing process and used a lot of diagrams, Mom came back into the room. She looked even smaller now, or maybe I'd just grown larger with new information. How is my boy? She asked, smoothing Evan's hair like he was 5. Annoying and stubborn, he said. So, the same. She smiled weakly. I watched them for a second, realizing suddenly that for 15 years I'd been standing outside an invisible circle they'd drawn around their shared secret. Mom, I said. She startled slightly, like she'd forgotten I was there. We should talk, I said. All of us. She looked between us, suspicion flickering in her gaze. Evan told you. Yes, I said simply. Her shoulders sagged. For a heartbeat, I saw past the armor to the woman who'd lost her husband on a random Tuesday and tried to keep 2 sons afloat with duct tape and denial. I thought I was protecting you, she whispered. You were so little. You already had nightmares about monsters as it was. I didn't want your own heart to become another monster. So you turned Dad into one instead, I said. It came out sharper than I meant. She flinched. I know I did. Every time I saw you pull away when people talked about fathers, I wanted to fix it. And every time, I was afraid that if I told you the truth, you'd spend the rest of your life waiting to drop dead like he did. You could have trusted me, I said. My voice cracked. You could have given me the truth and let me decide what to do with it. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't trust myself. I thought if I said it out loud, it would make it real, that I'd lose both of you before you even had a chance to grow up. Silence stretched. The monitor beeped in Evan's room, steady and indifferent. I'm angry, I admitted. I lost my dad twice. Once in reality, once in the story you told me. I spent years feeling less than? Like there was something wrong with me that made people leave. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. If I could go back. You can't, I said gently. But you can go forward, with the truth this time. She nodded, sobbing quietly, one hand gripping the bed rail like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I reached out and took it. This did not magically fix everything. I didn't forgive 15 years of silence in one hospital room. My brain doesn't work like that. But I felt something shift. A door creaking open where there had only been a wall. Evan watched us, eyes bright. Look at us, he said, communicating like a healthy family. The therapist will be so proud. I snorted. Slow down, Captain Cardiac. We've managed one honest conversation. Let's not get ambitious. He grinned, then winced and put a hand on his chest. Okay, no more jokes. Laughing hurts. Finally, I said, a medical reason for you to stop making terrible puns. Mom shook her head, laughing through tears. You two, even in a hospital. This is called coping, I informed her. Very advanced technique. I got tested the following week. Sitting in the cardiologist's office, listening to my own heart whoosh through machines was probably the most aware I've ever been of being alive. Turned out, I had the same condition. Not as severe, yet, but enough that the doctor recommended medication, lifestyle changes, regular monitoring, and a calm conversation about my future. When I called Evan from the parking lot to tell him, he just sighed. Knew it. You've always copied me. Couldn't you pick something less dramatic, like my taste in sweaters? Your sweaters are boring, I said. But thanks, I guess, for giving me a heads up, even if it was 15 years late. I'll take my wins where I can, he replied. Here's what changed. I stopped being jealous of Evan's supposedly perfect life because I finally saw the cost of it. The secrets he carried, the weight he took on because someone had to. He stopped trying to be flawless. There's nothing like a hospital stay to make you rethink your priorities. He started saying things like, I can't do that and I need help, which I honestly didn't know he was capable of. Mom started telling stories about Dad that didn't end with anger. Stories where he was funny or kind or disastrously bad at assembling furniture. Stories she should have told me years ago. And me? I started living like my heart was both fragile and worth protecting. I quit the job I hated and found one that didn't require me to pretend I was a robot. I actually went to the cardiology appointments. I called Mom without bracing myself for the Evan praise reel. And when she did slip up and say, your brother would... I'd say, what would I do, Mom? And she'd laugh and start again. Sometimes I still get angry. At her, at Evan, at the universe for bungling its communications so spectacularly. But anger feels lighter now, threaded with something else. Grief, sure, but also relief. Because the story in my head has changed. My dad didn't walk out on us. My brother didn't outshine me because I wasn't enough. My heart isn't my enemy. It's just complicated, like the rest of us. And the phone call that started in the cereal aisle? The one that sounded like the worst day of my life? It turned out to be the first day I finally heard the truth.